What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise Postgame show. My voice just cracked a little bit. That was a little weird, but the Blazers, the Blazers get another blowout win. Third game in a row in which they've won by double digits. This one, they take care of a Brooklyn Nets team missing Kevin Durant and missing James Harden. But, despite who the Brooklyn Nets were missing, this was a very solidly played game from the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, let me set the stage for this post-game show. I am happy with the way the team played today. You had a lot of good individual performances. I do wish that KD and James Harden played, though, because I'd love to see us beat a top-tier team, with everybody healthy and whatnot. But that shouldn't detract from this win. That's just something I'm looking forward to over the final few games of this regular season, because I think if they play like how they've played the past couple games, they should be competitive against solid teams. And just seems like a switch has been flipped with this team. We've seen good performances here and there, flashes of games like this, but the Blazers have consistently done it in 3 games. One against a pretty average team in the Grizzlies, one against a depleted mediocre team in the Indiana Pacers, and then this Nets team that was on the court tonight was a pretty, I'd say it's a solid team. They've been doing well despite having guys out, so it's a solid win, and the manner in which the Blazers took care of this one is what was impressive. They hit some shots, they move the ball, they score 128 points, but then on top of that, they hold the Brooklyn Nets to 109, one of the best offensive teams in the league, even though they've had their big 3 out for big portions of this season, So this is overall a very, very quality win. Hopefully we're able to see this against better, more healthy teams down the stretch. Eric, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I do want to see them against a good team, but it's just some fantastic individual performances in this one as well. But I also feel like even though there was good individual performances, they played well as a team, and that's something we've been begging for a long time. I thought early on they obviously missed some open threes. I think they started 0 for 6 or something like that from 3 before they hit one. And it felt like one of those games where every time they got to the rim or took it in, they were scoring easily. So I was hoping that trend wouldn't continue to where they were settling for the threes and try to get going inside, which I feel like after a while they certainly did. And then, of course, once you do that, then the threes start falling. So I really like using the ability to hit threes to get open cutters and to get guys go into the basket and to pass the ball inside instead of just always shooting those threes. So I really liked, as the game went on, it seemed like that was more of an emphasis. Of course, you're going to always have Dave and Simons and Melo or whatever hitting threes. That's always a good thing. But I like when they don't just shoot every time and they try to get guys going to the rim as well.
Yep, I'm looking at the box score right now, and I'm surprised to see Nurkic finishing with 1 assist. That does not do him justice. He was a key part in us moving the ball and getting some quality looks. There was at least a couple possessions in which he made a really good pass and it led to a foul around the rim. Yeah. One most notably was a situation where Dame gets trapped at the 3-point arc, hits Nurkic in the middle of the floor. It wasn't a good enough trap. It wasn't as good of a trap as we normally see in the playoffs. Good traps will take away that pass to the middle of the floor, but Dame hits Nurkic in the middle of the floor and Rocco cuts baseline. I've talked in previous years about how we need guys to, instead of sitting in the corner in that situation, to cut baseline. Rocco is started in the corner. His guy helps up onto Nurkic around the free throw line. Rocco cuts behind that and gets fouled around the rim. So, of course, Nurkic doesn't get an assist for that, but it was a good pass, a good feed from Nurkic, a quick read, and the type of plays that we need to see against the trap. It was insanely frustrating in years prior when guys like Evan Turner, instead of cutting there and potentially getting a layup or fouled around the rim, would sit in the corner and launch threes. When Maurice Harkless would sit in the corner and launch threes. And Al-Farouq Aminu would sit in the corner and launch threes. The thing is, they weren't, super quality three-point shooters, and you had a lot of people say, well, we need better shooters. No, a lot of times you just need those guys to cut baseline in that sort of situation. So that was a play that stood out to me. But overall, I like the ball movement. Nurkic with 1 assist does not do him justice. He made a number of really good reads and passes that either, it was a hockey assist, or a guy missed an open shot, or a guy got fouled, and it didn't result in Nurkic registering an assist.
And the thing is that baseline cut, when Dame gets trapped and passes to someone in the middle of the free throw line extended there, that is open every single time. And if they sag off, it has to be on the near side shooter, in which case we have a shooter, which is usually either Norm Powell or CJ McCollum, would get a wide open 3 then. So either the cut's wide open, or there's a 3-point shooter who I'm more than comfortable shooting a wide open 3 with no one around him on. And we don't do a good job of getting a lot of open 3s usually. So yeah, in my opinion, I would welcome a double team. You saw after Dame made those 2 logo 3s, they were paying attention to him at half court. They sent a guy, they kind of had the weak double team that we had last year that always got picked apart because it was so slow developing and it came from so far away that Dame could easily see it coming. So in those situations, if I was Dame, I would know where Nurk is on those and welcome the double team to come, and then just throw to Nurk, and then you have an attacking advantage. And that's the key word, is attack. And when you have a baseline cutter and you have a passer like Nurk looking for that cutter, it is so difficult to stop. There is no reason why we cannot take advantage of these 4-and-3 situations. And then you see us take advantage of them, and then what happens? They can't guard Dame as closely either. They have to stop double teaming him as high, and then he's more open on his shots. It's a process to where we have not taken advantage of it since the Pelican series. We've had numerous opportunities to try and develop a situation where we have this kind of play against that trap, and we failed to do it. And there is still the personnel there capable of doing it. So I hope this game shows them that if they just have that mindset that this is literally unstoppable, if they try to trap Dame, then in the playoffs, some of these teams' strengths become like a weakness for them if they have no way of stopping Dame, either by trapping him and taking him out of the game, and that leads to us just getting an easy shot every time, or Dame getting open if they don't have as much defensive attention. And I'll take my chances with Dame in a playoff series if he's not getting as much defensive attention as he's accustomed to in the playoffs. So there's nothing but good can come out of those cuts and those passes, and that's why we've asked for it so much. And then we come out of a timeout. I'm assuming this was by design, so credit Terry Stotts. I'm giving him full credit for this, even if it wasn't his credit. But we call a timeout, have Dame in the corner, right? Pass to Melo, like elbow extended, and what does Dame do? Just cuts to the basket, leaves I forgot who it was, Johnson, I think, just standing there. Wasn't even expecting Dame to cut. He was expecting him to go get the dribble handoff like he always does, and had his easiest 2 of the game because it was just a well-designed cut and a perfect time to do it. And then once again, it's no coincidence that the next time down the court he gets an open 3 because they were worried about him backdooring him, and Johnson couldn't just overplay the dribble handoff. So when he came off that, the next time he had a step on Johnson and got an open shot. So these are little tweaks in the offense that are so simple, in my opinion. And it's so frustrating that we haven't seen them, but there's still a chance. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, but if they just build upon those type of plays, like, this offense is literally unstoppable. And I don't understand why we resort back to ISO and pick and roll heavy without involving the cutters and stuff like that. It's just frustrating to me. if we go back to a style that's not like this.
Yep, and I'm gonna break out the good old fashioned clipboard. All right, let's break this out here. Haven't broken it out in a few streams. Let's do it. So, I'm just going to diagram how we normally set up against a trap, and I've done this a number of times, so a number of people might know what I'm going to draw up here, but I'm gonna compare it to the possession that we're talking about, because this is a big issue in the playoffs. I know we're focusing on one simple play where Rocco gets fouled, but it's something that it's the biggest key to our offense is how we deal with Dame getting trapped in the playoffs. So plays like these are extremely, extremely important. How we normally set things up against a trap in the playoffs is we have CJ across the court, kind of up here. We run Dame off a Nurkic screen, kind of going this way. Nurkic goes to the middle of the floor, right? So you just say, okay, well, pass it out to Nurkic, and then he attacks the rim. A guy rotates over, kicks, right? But here's the problem. With CJ all the way up here, why would this guy stay on CJ? He doesn't. He comes down here, he takes away this pass to Nurkic. Also in the playoffs, especially if Dame has very little room because he has the half-court line here, the sideline here, it's easy to kind of swarm Dame and basically make it so he can't get a pass out, right? So a lot of times the one pass out is CJ all the way up here. What happens when the ball's in the air? This guy runs back out there, this guy rotates back. And then it's a CJ McCollum isolation. We don't take advantage of the trap. My PS4 is going off again. This is becoming a bigger problem. But today, Eric, I don't know if I think this was CJ or Norm, and this was CJ or Norm. Regardless, it doesn't even matter, right? The play I'm talking about was as simple as running the screen a little bit lower. Dame gets trapped here. Passes out to Nurkic here. Okay. This is so much better for a multitude of reasons, right? First, it's a lot harder to help onto Nurkic. This guy, even if he comes here, if Nurkic is able to kind of seal him a little bit, it's a kick out there. If not, maybe this guy comes up and it's a pass there, and this guy's in position to shoot, compared to CJ being the outlet all the way up here at half court where he doesn't even have a shot. They rotate back to him. So today you have a situation where they get the ball out to Nurkic. This guy comes over to help. This guy dives baseline. Okay? That's what should happen every time. This guy comes, this guy dives baseline, right? Or the thing is, if this guy stays home and this guy helps, it's a kick out to a shooter. This guy rotates up, swing to the corner, open shot. Or this guy could also cut and you can make a bounce pass there. You know, if they rotate back, maybe you hit Nurkic on a dive. You just move the ball out of it. You get the ball into a position where you have a numbers advantage. Right here, you have 3 offensive players for 2 defenders, right? And you're in position to exploit it, compared to a situation where the only open guy, when we normally set things up, is CJ at half court. He's not a threat there. You're not going to be able to exploit it. They rotate back completely fine. Whereas today, is we invite the trap to Dame. I'm cool with that if we set ourselves up to exploit it, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. This guy helps up, bounce pass to Rocco, he gets fouled at the rim. That simple. It's literally that simple. And that's why it infuriates me when people say that it's a personnel issue as to why we can't deal with the trap. That's why it infuriated me in the Pelican series when Al-Farouq Aminu is being blamed for his outside shot, making it so teams can trap us when he's shooting 43%. That's the exact reason why. Because it's how we set up against the trap. 100% how we set up against the trap. Sure, personnel can help a little bit more, but we have always consistently set up against the trap bad. That is going to be something that I'm watching heavily for in the playoffs this year, if we do make it, because obviously that's a little bit of a question mark. And that's just an example. It's such an easy, simple, different way to set up against the trap in a position where you can exploit it. It's not hard, and that's why it baffles my mind why they haven't been able to figure this out at any point the past few years.
And when you just said it, Beerus also said it in chat. So they did that too, where Nurk passed to Rocco, and then Rocco passed back to Nurk, and he had a wide open dunk, which he missed tonight. But that was such a beautiful play. And that's just another example of when you're looking to pass out of those situations and get to the rim, and you have players cutting towards the rim. It's so hard to stop. And um, to piggyback off that, so what's not 19S? Serious question. Why hasn't the coaching staff implemented what you're just diagramming? They obviously know what you're discussing, right?
I mean, it baffles me, man. Eric, do you have an explanation for it?
Well, I mean, Stotts has told us. He said that they don't do anything different. They have to rely on the pick and roll because that's what they do. That's what he says. So they constantly just bring Dame into the double team, and then they expect CJ to then make a play or something if he's not open. But it's all ISO. And I mean, how many times have we sat on this program and just said they don't attack the 4-on-3 situation? There's no excuse for that. And yeah, it's not like they don't know about this. They have this belief that they have to rely on Dame and CJ only, and I guess Melo the last 2 years to like just make something happen out of those situations. And it's just like their defense. Their defense would be so much better if they attacked certain situations or the pick and roll or just put a little more pressure on the defense. And I feel like in these situations, they just have this mindset like, oh, it's okay if Dame gets doubled. We'll just like try a pick and roll anyway and see if he can dribble between two guys and somehow get by him. Because if he does, it's sometimes open, but like it's really hard for Dame to get through two guys that are trapping him because it's usually two of the more athletic defenders on the team because they know we're going to do it. So they have their best defender on Dame usually, and then their second best defender or their best like big defender would be guarding Nurkic. And then you hear his thoughts in the post game like, well, Nurk has to adjust in the pick and roll and stuff. So like I just feel like our mindset is completely wrong when it comes to that, and our stubbornness to maybe try new things or to try new wrinkles or new plays gets in the way of us succeeding a lot. And that's something that we've touched upon for ever since the beginning of this show. But like, I just feel like we don't have an aggressive mindset, and it would do wonders for us if we played more like we did tonight, especially against good defenses that are just waiting for us to get put in these pick and roll situations, knowing that they can recover and they don't have to worry about selling out to stop Dame because we don't take advantage of it. If we start taking advantage of that, I feel like we have the personnel, at least offensively, to destroy good defenses. Now, the Nets aren't a good defense, but Memphis is a top 10 defense, and we destroyed them last game with an attacking mindset. So I mean, I'm not saying this is gonna be for sure our team because I don't have confidence that will play like this all the time, but this is something that this team is capable of doing, and that's why we get so frustrated when people say that it's a personnel issue or that Olshey has done a horrible job and all that stuff, because I feel like the players on this team are skilled enough to handle these things. They're just not put in the right position to do so.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, there was a lot of possessions tonight offensively where I really liked the ball movement, where I thought we were not settling for bad shots. And that's been the theme all season long, is we've been settling for bad shots. Now we have a ton of offensive talent, so that still translates to us being a top 10 offense, but it's not as good of an offense as it could be. You can't tell me that the team with the highest percentage of threes that are contested is completely optimized offensively. That's not the case whatsoever. And we saw our offense really fall off as of late, as of the past 15 games. You know, we lose 10 out of 13 games. I think our offense was around 20th ranked during that stretch. That was an issue. Now, this is another game I don't know if it was the Indiana game or the Memphis game that I'm thinking of, but it was one of those two. We really attacked the rim really well, got a lot of shots inside the arc, and were very efficient. Tonight, we did the very same thing. We shot 91 shots and only 36 were threes. Now, if you take this back 15 years ago, you're saying, oh, wow, that's a ton of threes. But today, in 2021, especially with this Blazers team, which shoots a ton of threes, having 36 3-point attempts, and let me do some quick math here. 55 2-point attempts, 36 3-point attempts to 55 2-point attempts. That's a very 2-point heavy offensive game for the Portland Trailblazers. The thing is, they were also efficient, not only from three. It helped that they made some threes. They were 16 for 36 from three, 44%. But out of their 55 2-point shots, Eric, they made 31 of them. I'll put this in here. That is good for 56.4% from two. Okay, they also got to the line 20 times, made 18 of those. So they were attacking, not settling for contested jump shots, and they were getting good looks inside the paint, finishing them off, getting to the line, making their free throws. And that's the type of thing you need, because they're going to have games in the playoffs where they're not making threes. Okay, the thing is, can you overcome that? If you just shoot a bunch of threes and you're on a cold shooting night, well, you're gonna lose the game, especially considering how poor this defense has been. But if you're able to attack the paint, if you're able to get to the line, if you're able to get efficient looks inside, you can overcome a bad shooting night. And that's what I've wanted to see from this team. So that is something that was very encouraging tonight.
Yeah, and so you said they were 16 to 36 from three, and like I said, they missed at least their first six, so that means they were plus 50%. And I feel like the reason for that is after we got off to a slow start shooting the ball, what happened? We have Norm Powell driving to the basket, Dame driving to the basket, and Norm had a nice cut for a dunk off one of those. You had Nurk getting involved in a lot of pick and roll, and he was getting easy lay-ins, but he was getting passes where he could easily just catch and go right up to the basket or dunk it. And I know he missed the dunk, but I love to see him going towards the rim. A couple of those he got fouled, just like we were talking about how he didn't get credit for assists or whatever. It's just I love that's why I like Norm so much, is because I feel like he missed a couple threes right away, and what did he do the rest of the game for the most part was attack the basket. And in the second half, he got to the free throw line a bunch. We know Dame hasn't really gotten to the free throw line a lot lately, but like Norm is just that guy who understands when the three's not falling, I need to get to the rim and either draw a foul or get an easy bucket. And that's something that this team has really been missing for a long time. So just props to Olshey for recognizing that, because Trent wouldn't do that. I mean,
yeah.
And then we have a guy like Simons, who's now, arguably playing Trent better than Trent ever did at any point this season. So not only do we have him filling that Trent role better than Trent did, but we also have a guy like Norman Powell, who's completely different type of player, and who gives us a new dynamic to attack the basket in a way we haven't been able to do in past years.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I like that trade for this season. Obviously it's risky come the off season, but Norman Powell brings another guy that can get to the rim that we've sorely needed. He had some impressive drives tonight, a couple of dunks. He shot 1 for 7 from 3 today, but he shot 5 for 6 inside the arc, and he also made all 6 of his free throws, right? How many times did Gary Trent Jr. shoot 6 free throws for us? You know what I mean? And if he did, it was likely because he's getting fouled on a 3-point attempt from a defender being done. You know what I mean? It's not from him aggressively attacking the paint. Has Gary Trent Jr. ever gone 5 for 6 inside the arc for us? I wouldn't be surprised if he never had that good of a game inside the arc.
I'm
right?
sure he did, but I
mean, very, very possible. You know what I mean? But the thing is, Norman Powell does this consistently. He attacks, he puts pressure on the defense, he's able to get to the free throw line, and he's able to get to the rim, and he's also a very good finisher around the rim. So that's why I liked the trade when it happened. That combined with Norman Powell being a bit of a better defender right now, is why I think Norman Powell was obviously the better player. Now, his three-point shot he struggled with it in Portland. He was 43% from three going into Portland. He's been around 30%, might be under 30% after this game, but he's still been an effective.
Something, going into tonight, yeah.
He's still been an effective player though, because he's able to get to the rim. He's able to get into the paint. He had 19 points on 13 shots today. That's pretty efficient. And when you look at 1 for 7 from three,
right?
I mean, he when his 3-point shot isn't falling, he's able to be effective for us, which you couldn't say that about Gary Trent Jr.
Yeah, and that's crucial. And same with Simons. I feel like Simons, I mean, obviously he's shooting the ball extremely well right now, but like I feel like he's making an impact other than just shooting threes too. Had a couple nice passes tonight, but that's been my biggest thing with Norm. I feel like he's aware enough to know. I mean, he still shoots 7 threes, but like I didn't feel like any of them were really bad shots, or he wasn't like forcing them because he had missed a couple and needs to get one or something. And that hesitation one where he completely, I forgot, that might have been Johnson too, where he just stood him in his tracks and then went right by him for a dunk. I really like when players impact the game by getting aggressive like that. And it's really something that, I mean, I understand like trying to shoot as many threes as possible. I get the mindset behind it. I just don't like how it seems to make your team like a little soft when you need to attack and you need to get easy buckets if you're not getting a lot of threes to fall.
Yeah. So we will go through player by player. We haven't done that in a while. I'm finishing up the graphics right now. What'd you think of our defense today? What's your breakdown on that?
I thought it was pretty good. I feel like Kyrie, most of the times he tried to attack, he got good shots, so I'm surprised he didn't try to do it more often. So yeah, I didn't feel like he was as aggressive as he probably could have been against us. But yeah, I mean, Jeff Green even, I mean, poor Rocco, man, he was contesting threes and he had like four in a row, like right in the guy's face. Good closeout, and they just hit the three on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, I mean, it's hard to like say that's bad defense, but it's like, come on, Rocco, like do something different. I don't know.
I mean, Jeff Green shooting 38% from three, but it's just like, like I don't know. Covington was in his grill, man. Sometimes there's nothing you can do in situations like that. Like, I don't know what else Robert Covington could have done. Like, he would have had to block his shot to change that. You know what I mean? And at that point, you know, if you're that committed to blocking their shot, they're going to pump fake, get you in the air, draw the foul, or get by you. So, honestly, I think he played it as best as he possibly could. That first half was an example, Eric, a rare example of when we missed shots and they made shots is a legitimate excuse or reason, okay? Because Jeff Green in that second quarter hit a number of contested threes, right? During that first quarter, I thought our 3-point shots were high quality. High quality. We started out 0 for 6 from 3, but we were getting good looks, right? Now, the problem is our coaching staff, some of our players use that excuse all the time, even when it doesn't apply, and normally it doesn't apply when they use that excuse. But that first half was an example of like, okay, I wouldn't have been mad if they said, yeah, during the first half, they made some tough shots and we missed some open ones.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially our first few possessions, we got open threes. But that's also why I like when you don't have to rely on threes every game to fall. And that's one key, I think, is the difference between sitting in a post game and saying, well, we just missed shots, like, and completely changing the game by then getting aggressive when you miss those shots. And that's why you always say this too. It's like, oh, well, what are we supposed to do? We had like 17 open threes at the end, and we only hit 2 of them, and we completely melted down in the fourth quarter. It's like, well, why did you take 17 threes in a row? Or like, like why didn't you try going inside? And you've pointed that out several times in games where we've melted in the last few minutes. Why are we settling for those threes if they're not falling? So you don't want to hear that that we just missed shots at the end of the game. So I like that. I like that we, like you mentioned earlier too, the amount of 2-point field goals versus 3-point field goals. I think that's an important thing to recognize in the middle of a game, that you don't just have to chuck threes and then say you miss shots at the end.
Yep, I agree with that. Do you have the donations ready to go, loaded up and all that?
Yes, I do. Cool. Actually, I was taking pictures of them, so I didn't listen.
That's not a bad idea.
So Apples with the Australian $5 dono, he says, really good to see Dame be the same. We know also Nurk played well if we finally beat a top-tier team. I wouldn't call them missing their 2 out of the 3 studs a top-tier team, but I still like the way we're playing tonight. We haven't really even talked about Dame too much, but Dame finally, good to see the old Dame back there tonight. Mm-hmm. Took a bad fall early in the game, but seemed to be fine after that. And then, when Dame's hitting those shots, I mean, it completely opens up the offense for us if we attack, like I said. But it's good to see him play well. And then Nurk is absolutely a game changer if he regains anywhere close to the form he had before he got hurt in 2019, which these last few games are leaving me hopeful that he's starting to get back in the groove and get in shape and just get confidence back in both his body and his shot right now.
Yep, and we will touch on players individually to appreciate the donation. What was the next one?
My man Alvaro Bazan, $2 dono, says, give Norm the bag. That defense was nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to give him the bag to keep him. And I said this on the last stream, I think it was. I would rather overpay him than lose him for nothing. Okay? Yep. This team is going to be in the tax for a few years. Paying Norman Powell an extra $5 million is not going to change anything this team can realistically do in terms of roster construction. It's not like if we lose him, we get cap space, because as I said, we're going to be in the tax. So might as well pay him. You got to keep an asset like that, okay? We're going to lose far more if he leaves than if we overpay him. So you overpay him. It's a risk versus reward thing. There's no reward if he walks. There's a reward if you overpay him, and that's him providing what he provides on a night-in, night-out basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. We need to do everything to keep that guy. And that is whether we keep or trade CJ, I feel like we need to keep Norm on top of that.
Yep. I have the final 2 that's from You Have No Clue. $2 dono says, Anderson Varejao back in Cleveland. That was something that I did not expect to see today. But good for Anderson Varejao. I thought he was retired.
Yeah, he did, but I guess he's coming out of retirement to play.
Very, very
I don't know
strange.
why this late in the season he would come out of retirement, or why a young team like the Cavs would not just like pick up someone who has maybe some potential at center for the future or something. Just give a guy a shot for the next couple months, but or I guess the next couple weeks, I should say. But I mean, good for Anderson Varejao, I guess.
Yep. And then the final donation we had is from Near012, old reliable Near Zero. I shouldn't call him old. Young reliable Near012 with a $5 dono. He says, I noticed that we're playing with more effort on the defensive end, but there's no change in scheme. Kyrie got hot in the second half and still no change. I agree with that. You notice how I'm not crediting the coaching staff necessarily with the defensive effort tonight. You notice how Eric didn't do that. I mean, there's still not... The scheme things still worry me going into the playoffs. The effort is better. It's definitely better, but it just leaves me sitting here with two takeaways from the defense right now. One is that the scheme, we're still not seeing enough pressure defense, I feel like, and we're still not seeing enough diversity with the scheme. We're going to need that in the playoffs. You know, you look back to the Western Conference Finals of 2019 against the Golden State Warriors. We come out in game one. We're so used to running drop schemes, way too comfortable with it, that Stotts runs drop scheme on Steph Curry, and he gets open shot after open shot, and the national media is literally laughing at our defense. And then we have to switch it up in game two and run something different for the rest of the series. And we, you know, it was better because it was a much better scheme, but the executional aspects of it, some of the finer details of it, we did not have down because we didn't run it enough. So, you know, I'm still going into the playoffs like, man, we're still not... We haven't run enough of other stuff defensively other than drop scheme and soft shows for me to be comfortable with our defense heading into a playoff series. And then you can touch on that if you want, Eric. But the second takeaway is just why the effort now? Why couldn't we have that earlier this season? That is kind of ridiculous.
Well, apparently Dame had finally a players meeting and laid down the law and said enough is enough. After, I know in previous years, I don't know if he's been asked that this year up until this point, but in previous years, he's said that he doesn't believe in players-only meetings, and he doesn't think that accomplishes anything, that you can't lead by example on the court and stuff. So maybe a little evolution in Dame's leadership. We know he's been a great leader for Portland, but maybe that's him recognizing that maybe his coach's attitude of, motivational speeches don't work and can't really say anything at halftime to change anything type attitude. Maybe he's starting to realize that there are some things that maybe if he gets in some guys' faces or, starts holding not only himself but everyone accountable, starts calling him out a little bit, maybe there are some ways you can alter effort and stuff from within the team versus just sitting here wondering why we're always getting out-efforted on some of these games.
Yep. I mean, let me just say this. If Stotts starts doing everything perfectly the final 10 games of the season and we like it, it still does not change how I feel about us needing a new coach in the offseason. If we start playing with 100% effort the last 10 games of the season, it doesn't really change my opinion on kind of the mental makeup of this team. And basically the underlying reason for both those things is there's no reason that it should have taken this long for Stotts to figure things out, for some of these players to figure things out. It shouldn't have taken 60 games into the season for the players to start playing with effort on the defensive end. It shouldn't have taken 60 games into the season for Stotts to do some of the things that we've wanted from him. And, he's still not switching up the defensive schemes, but offensively I like it better. It just should not have taken this long. It shouldn't be something where it's like, well, we really have to start trying something different because we're losing a bunch of games. So I guess we're going to start moving the ball more, and I guess we're going to start trying, because that's kind of what it feels like. Yes, it's nice. Yes, I'm happy with this game. Yes, it gives me a little bit of hope going into the playoffs. But the fact that it took us 60 games to do that is a issue with me, and it's why there needs to be change in the offseason, because that should be the baseline for the team. You know what I mean? It should be, that's what they do from game 1 to game 10 to game 50 to game 72, or next season game 82. That's what they should do the entire season long. So it shouldn't have taken this long. Yes, it's nice to see finally some good defensive effort out of the Blazers. It just shouldn't have taken this long, man.
Yeah, and that's the super frustrating thing about this season is we heard it all before the season started. Things need to be different this year. We need to change our schemes. We need to come out of the gates ready with the intensity that we normally have when our back's against the wall, and we need to go on a run to make the playoffs or to get a certain seed or whatever. And you heard them all say that. Stotts, Dame, Olshey, all of them talked about how they needed to bring that intensity and mindset from the beginning of the season. And then for them to not seemingly do it at the beginning of the year, and then they get two guys hurt, and then they actually like win games, even though it was against like a pretty weak schedule. You felt like they were kind of like okay with how they were playing, even though they weren't playing great, but it felt like they were accepting of it just because of the injuries, and even though a lot of those games we still had more talent on the floor. And then you get those guys back, and like instead of like fixing it or having any of these things that you've been doing all season to be better at this point, then it was just like, oh, we got these guys back, now we're going to be good again. And you can't just throw guys out there and expect to improve these things without actually doing something to improve them. So it's nice that it's finally happening, but I agree it should have happened 60 games ago versus right now. And then we could talk about like the defensive diversification that you were talking about. If we had been running new stuff all year, then we could start to see tweaks of it by now, instead of just like, wow, I hope this base defense works all the way through the playoffs or whatever. Because even if this is good for the rest of the regular season, it's still my concern as well that what they're doing isn't good enough to win in a 7-game series. When the team makes adjustments to what you're doing, you have to adjust as well. And then also we've seen numerous times, including multiple times this year, it works for a couple games. Things are going great. We're like, oh, maybe this team turned the corner. And then the minute we play a good team or lose a couple games, we go right back to Stotts is like back to ISO offense and our drop scheme defense. And, we see like, well, we tried it, didn't work. And even though it's not going to work 100% of the time, you're never going to win every game. So I just want to see them do the right things all the time. And I'm trying not to be hopeful of these 3 games to the point where I'm going to get fooled again. But I'm also like, there's a chance this time could be different. But like you said, he shouldn't be excused for all the past year and a half not doing any of that stuff.
Yep, agreed. You got JD. JD's calling it in chat. He says Dame will approve a trade to New York after getting swept in the first round this year. Heard it here first. Well, A, he doesn't have a no trade clause. He wouldn't have to approve anything. B, that's just not going to happen. So C, thank you for telling us you just don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, just that whole...
Did you see that report?
The dude, it's the same guy that said it a year ago. And like the year before that Berman guy. So I comment on it. It's like, we're really doing this again. It's the same guy. There's Dame to New York. Nah, it's a bunch of BS, man. It's literally just, dude, it's so, I don't even know what to say about it. If you don't realize that is just a bunch of BS, then either you're too biased and a Knicks fan, or you just don't know how to vet information out there on the internet, which is probably something you should learn if that's the case.
And I just laughed because it said, oh, they're willing to give up 3 or 4 firsts so they don't have to include like RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin or any of their young players. It's like, well, okay, so who are you including? Because like 3 or 4 firsts isn't enough for Dame, and like it's so dumb.
If they don't trade a player of those firsts or what, like 24th, 25th, bro, the Blazers are not trading Dame for 4 late firsts. Okay,
yeah.
If you think that's possible, then I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, come on. There's so many people. I mean, it's Twitter. There's so many people out there that don't know trades and don't know trade value. It's the same people that, it's the same Laker fans that thought they could trade Kyle Kuzma straight up for Devin Booker because Stephen A. Smith said so. You know what I mean? Valley Podcast is in our chat at the perfect time because I know they know what I'm talking about with the crazy trade packages out there for Devin Booker that make no sense for the Suns. And it's just like it's silly. It's silly.
Yeah, it's like the Lakers. You hear like, oh, Lakers show interest in Beal. They had like last year, they had no picks to trade. They had like Danny Green's contract and like KCP or whatever. It's like the Wizards aren't going to trade Beal for no first, KCP and Danny Green. Like it's just not going to happen. But the Lakers think that that's enough. Oh, but if we're willing to include Taylor Horton Tucker, that would put us over the edge. Like that makes up for not having any first to trade or something like that. It's so funny.
It's ridiculous, man. But yeah, so we'll have you covered this offseason when it comes to trades because we actually know what we're talking about. We're not just some random Twitter people, man. And if you come in here like saying Dame's gonna request a trade, whatever, we will roast you. Okay, because if you're doing that, you're trying to troll or stir up the chat or trying to cause problems on the stream. If you come in here and say Dame's going to request a trade to New York, I wouldn't go into the Valley podcast stream and say, yeah, Devin Booker after the season, after they lose in the first round, yeah, he's going to request a trade to the Lakers, and then be, I would expect to get absolutely demolished on their stream if I said that. I would expect to get roasted just beyond belief if I went in there and said that. So you come in my chat and say that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to roast you.
The Lakers are going to sign and trade Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder for Devin Booker. With no, maybe they'll throw in a second too.
Bro, why would they have to throw in a pick, man? They're already giving up Montrezl Harrell. Like, how much value do the Suns expect? They're already getting Montrezl Harrell. I mean, obviously, you give up any sixth-man quality player, you should expect a star back if you're Lakers fans. That's kind of how they operate. So, Valley Podcast has hit the like button. We'll give them another shout out. If you want Suns content, check them out. They're good friends of ours. Hope to make a few more next season so we can have more collaborative stuff. But hey, if we pace them in the first round, it'll be very, very fun.
Hey, shout out to this guy Isaac Thomas in chat too. He was asking for a shout out. So
why was he asking for a shout out when he knows every time we talk about him on stream, we quote air him out? Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this game. Anything else team based that you want to really go into before we hop into the individual players?
No, we pretty much covered most of it.
All right. Well, we got the graphics for you guys, as you guys have already seen. Haven't done these in a couple weeks, so figured I'd do it today. So let's just go through player by player like we normally do. Let me set it to... Oh, no, it's been on Dame this whole time, and nobody told me. Anyway, while we're already on Dame, it was supposed to be an automatic slideshow if you're new to this, but yeah, we're already on Dame, so Dame breaks out in a way. There's stretches where this is a normal Dame game. The past month has been brutal for Dame. It was very, very nice to see him have a 30-point game for his first time in a while, to have an efficient three-point shooting night, to hit some deep threes like we know he can. This looked like normal Damian Lillard, and he's been banged up. He's been dealing with nagging injuries, and the Chris Haynes article about him pointed that out, that he, deals with nagging injuries without people knowing about it, without him talking about it, that sort of thing. And it's been pretty evident the past month because he hasn't quite looked himself. So it was nice to see him look more like the Damian Lillard we all know. Now, he's still 4 for 9 inside the arc. That's kind of where he struggled from 3, but I feel like the injury, if he's dealing with injuries, whether it's his abs, whether it's his, something with his knee, his legs, whatever, I feel like it wouldn't be surprising to see him have a three-point shooting game like this while still dealing with those injuries. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, he's kind of past that, because this game doesn't necessarily mean that whatsoever. He just hit a lot of threes. It didn't necessarily look to have the maximum burst, in my opinion, Eric. He didn't he's extremely quick, so it's kind of hard to tell because he's still quick right now. But when he's healthy and at the start of seasons, or after, he has a long layoff, say he's injured and comes back fresh and whatnot, he has a burst, just that extra little amount of burst that gets him to the backboard before defenders, that gets him to the rim before defenders, and makes him a really high-level slashing threat. And I felt like he hasn't had that little extra amount of burst in the past month. And it's like he had a great game tonight, which was good to see. I still feel like I didn't really see that extra little bit amount of burst. So I'm hoping he can kind of get back to that, because he's struggling to beat guys to the rim and get shots, get clean looks off at the backboard, or around the rim. Does that make sense? Do you feel the same way, or what are your thoughts on that?
I kind of feel the same way, but then did you miss that play where he drove on Kyrie and tried to pack him left-handed?
I saw that play.
He got fouled, but I'm
not saying he can't jump, you know.
I know. I love when he tries to dunk, and that should have been a foul, but
it should have been.
That would have been like an all-time highlight reel play for Dame if he would have finished that one. But
don't get me wrong. He's still quick. He's still athletic. You know, I'm just saying like that extra little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, some of that too is just like, I don't know if this is true of every opponent we played, but he does finish better against certain teams. And then I mentioned this last game. He's not getting any calls when he drives, like none. And he's used to getting like some of those calls and, you know, getting to the line, you know, 8 to 10 times a game. Whereas right now, outside of a game or two recently, during the struggles, he's barely getting to the line at all.
He shot 0 free throws today.
Yeah. Maybe some of that is like when he's less explosive, he's not like putting the defense in more of a position to foul him. But I feel like he's just kind of getting a little gun shy on those since he's not getting calls lately. I don't know if it could very well be his injury too, but I feel like he's not as attacking as much. But I will say, in the first quarter especially, people were complaining, oh, he's only taken 2 shots or whatever a few minutes into the game, and why is he being so passive? But like he was having those drives, but he was looking to pass on them a lot more than he normally does, and he was looking to get his team going, and then he still ends up with 22 field goals and gets on fire in the second half. So I like when he sets his players up and doesn't take a lot of bad shots, as long as he's still attacking and setting the team up that way versus just completely just giving the ball up and letting other people go ISO or whatever. But yeah, I mean, obviously hips with the hamstring thing, the exact hamstring, the tendinopathy thing does affect your hips and your butt. And, you know, if he was holding his ribs tonight. So like those are all things that greatly affect your flexibility when you shoot the ball. And we know that shooting has a lot to do with your lower body, especially when you're shooting those deep threes. And so that's absolutely playing a part in his game right now. But hopefully he can just get enough energy to play these last couple of weeks. But at some point, might have to think about, you know, some load management for these last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Cavs coming up. That's a game I'd probably rest them for. What's funny is, you know, my comments on that showed me that some people still need to pay a little bit more attention to the specific wordage, because I said that and people were like, oh, he still blew by guys. And it's like, I'm not saying he's slow. He's still very quick, you know, but at his peak, he's insanely quick. You know, there's a difference between very quick and insanely quick for Damian Lillard. All right. Right now, he's still quick, very quick. So he'll still be able to blow by guys from time to time. I think kind of the biggest thing he's struggling with is at his stature, when he drives, he needs to get up and into the chest of the shot blocker. Okay? He's not really explosively getting into the chest of shot blockers, is what I've noticed. And I feel like when he's able to do that, he gets more calls, and he's also able to finish a little better, because that's what you're supposed to do when you're driving and you got a shot blocker there. You get into their chest, shield the ball, and finish, right? You get up to their level a little bit more, you explode into their chest, and finish the ball. Thing is, I haven't, when he drives, it's almost like he's stopped looking to do that. And when he does try and shoot shots, he's not really going into the chest. He's a little bit ground bound. And I think a play that is kind of an example of that from tonight was the play in which Landry Shamet blocked his shot. He I don't know. Chat, do you guys notice that? Eric, do you notice that, or is that just me?
Yeah, I think it's definitely there. Yeah, it's hard to tell like what percentage that's affecting him. But I mean, at the NBA level, even if it's just a little bit, that's going to completely alter your game. So, but yeah, it's got to be frustrating because I don't know. A lot of these, it's tough because there isn't a lot of contact, but he is getting bodied, or like it's kind of questionable whether they should be fouls or not. But he's taken a lot of contact too, even though they might. It's kind of 50-50 whether they're fouls or not. But yeah, after a while, like getting knocked to the floor every time too, that you've got to like question whether you should continue just doing it if you're not getting to the line and you're not getting clean looks either out of it. So unless he's getting open lay-ins, I don't know if it's just a factor of the injury or if it's just he's getting frustrated because he doesn't seem to have good things happen when he's driving lately either.
Yeah, and I'll say this. He has a lot of shooting talent around him, so him being more passive isn't necessarily a bad thing when he drives, you know. Make it so that if they collapse a second guy onto you, you make them pay. You kick it out, and if they rotate, you move the ball. You know, that's what this team needs. The problem is when he, you know, normally when he kicks out and they rotate, they don't make the extra pass, they don't move the ball, and they don't exploit a rotating defense, and then it becomes some isolation stuff. You know what I mean? So I feel like if they move the ball better, he's a little bit more willing to kick the ball out to that open shooter, even if the defense rotates, because the offense will move the ball and find the right shot out of that compared to, you know, Rocco having a guy rotating on him, pump faking, not making the extra pass, and then it becomes a situation where Dame goes and gets the ball back and has to make something happen with 6 on the shot clock. So maybe the team moving the ball a little bit better is why he's a little bit more willing to kick out. He does have, you know, Norman Powell, who has struggled in a Blazer uniform from 3, but is a good 3-point shooter. You got CJ, you got Rocco, you got Anthony off the bench, you got Melo off the bench, who's shooting 40% from 3. So you got a lot of shooters around him. So maybe that's, you know, I don't know. I don't know how much everything I've just said ties together to Dame being more passive, but I do definitely think he's still not 100%.
Yeah, so I don't understand this from Rel88. He says y'all should just create a Dame segment of the show and call it the Dame Hour. Like, Dame's not the most important part of the team, and we shouldn't be talking about.
Yeah, man, why are we talking about Damian Lillard? Let's talk about Keldon
on
Blevins.
The Blazers while he's on the Blazers. That makes no sense.
Eric, did you see the wonder duo of CJ Ellaby and Kelvin Blevins
They both
today?
hit a 3, man.
Dude, I mean,
back-to-back games.
Blevins, what did I say last game? Like his per 36, he was averaging 48 points per game last game, per 36. Tonight, 3 minutes, he has 3 points again. So per 36 tonight, he had 36 points in this game if they just played him starting minutes. So the last 2 games, in my mind, Keldon Blevins is averaging 42 points per game over the last 2 games per 36. CJ Ellaby tonight, 3 minutes, has 3 points as well. So, I mean, if you got this wonder duo today averaging 36 points per game apiece, 72 points per game combined per 36 today, just phenomenal from CJ Ellaby and Kelvin Blevins.
And TJ Leaf had a block. How many blocks per 36 is he averaging?
Yeah, I mean, that's 36 blocks per 36 for TJ Leaf tonight. I don't know if he had a block last time we saw him, but, I mean, just phenomenal shot blocking from TJ Leaf, the legend. He has the initials TJ, so obviously he's a legend. Phenomenal effort. Wish we still had Kevin Calabro to give these guys the introduction into the game that they need. You know, what were they called? What did Kevin Calabro call them?
The closers.
The closers, man. It sucks that Jordan Kent hasn't adopted that. I'm sure he would be great at it. You know, it'd be better than birthday block or paint it or pour yourself a glass. You know, that's a couple of gems we got today. But yeah, just honestly should name our channel Keljin Blevin's Uprise at this point, man. His cousin could only dream to be him.
Yeah.
Rel, was that better? Are you happy, man? Hopefully you're happy. Hopefully you guys are entertained. All right. So, can't talk about Dame anymore. Let's move on to talk about Yusuf Nurkic. 23 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, 9 for 12 from the field. He has looked like old Nurk lately.
Yeah, Nurk is just fantastic. And the other thing is, too, it changes our dynamic when he's playing well because the ball's moving around. There's more energy, it feels like. He's more active on defense, and that feeds to the rest of the team. So it's just so nice to see Nurk play, and it's really fun, beautiful basketball when he's making those passes and stuff. At the beginning of the game, he had a couple dumb passes on turnovers. He tries to force that backdoor a couple times, too many, but he also threads the needle sometimes and gets a nice pass in there that wouldn't have gone through if he didn't attempt it. So it's hard to blame him too much for it. But I want to get this guy more involved. And especially there was at least, I stopped counting at 10, but when he set a pick and they switched the picks and we had Jeff Green or DeAndre Jordan or someone on Dame or Simons or whoever was running the point, Nurk had Kyrie or Shamit down in the low post, and we just let the guard drive on the big. But in some of those situations, I would especially when Nurk's having a game like he did tonight, and we know he's a capable passer out of those situations if they bring a double team, I would like them to take advantage of some of those switches the other way where they're feeding the big inside to get maybe an easy post up or a kick out to a 3 for another shooter if they double.
Yep, agreed. It's nice to see him looking comfortable. He hasn't looked this comfortable, in my opinion. He looked pretty good in the bubble, but he looks more comfortable than he did in the bubble the past few games. He should have had 25 points tonight, let's just be honest. He missed his easiest look of the night on just... Bro, yeah. Eric, that play was one of my favorite plays of the season. The kick out to the cutter and then the pass right back when the defense was rotating was beautiful. And then he misses the dunk. Nerd, man. But 9 for 12. I mean, he finished tonight. He's a difference maker. And before he went down with his leg injury, I was saying he's the second best player on this team. Okay? He is getting back to being the second best player on this team. I mean, he only played 26 minutes tonight, Eric, due in part to... he only had 3 fouls, so I don't know if it was foul trouble, but plays 26 minutes tonight to get those 23 points, 11 rebounds. And the assist numbers don't do his passing tonight justice. I mean, that's another phenomenal game. He has been phenomenal lately. I think, honestly, next year, if the system is tailor-made more for him, which I think it needs to be, we need to utilize his skills to their maximum, effect, his playmaking especially. He has a chance to be an all-star next year. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy. That's kind of the knock on him. It's just so nice to be able to have him back, have him healthy right now, and performing at the level he has. And it's something that shouldn't be taken for granted because of how much time he's missed in the past 2 years.
Yep, but Dame doesn't have any good teammates, so... Yeah,
man, just no all-star teammates, so obviously all his teammates are trash, including this guy, Norman Powell. He's trash too, right? Not an all-star. 19 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 6 for 13 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. What'd you think about Norm tonight? We've already talked on him a little bit. Is there anything more specific you want to touch on?
No, like I said, obviously you'd like to see him get closer to that 40% range, or at least somewhat what he was doing the last couple of years in Toronto. But I just love his dynamic of taking it strong to the rim and forcing the defense to guard him both on the perimeter and on the drives. And I think eventually that'll be kind of contagious for the rest of the team, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And I like that he gets us points when we struggle on offense.
Yep. Just wait till his 3-point shot starts falling, man. Just wait for it. I feel like we could do a better job of getting him higher quality 3-point looks. It seems like a lot of his looks are contested, including the one he made tonight. That fast break on the 3 he made, I enjoyed. Dame's trailing him. He kicks back to Dame and then relocates to the corner while Dame drives, and then Dame finds him. I enjoyed that break there because it wasn't like it was a pure 2-on-1. It was more of a 2-on-2 situation. You get a kick out, catch and shoot 3. I'm cool with that from Norm, especially from the corner. 1 for 7 from the 3-point line isn't good, but he was good in every other area of the game tonight. He was good from 2. He got to the line, made all his free throws, played good defense. So that's the thing is Gary Trent Jr., if he's shooting 1 for 7 from 3, he's hurting the team. Norman Powell, he shoots 1 for 7 from 3. He still does enough in other areas to help the team. So that's the big difference between those two players. Gary Trent Jr., I think, in his prime will be the type of guy who could have a 1 for 7 shooting night and still help the team because he's able to do things in other areas. That's kind of where he needs to round out his game. Norman Powell is already there, which is why I like that trade.
Yep, I agree.
So next guy you got Carmelo. We haven't really talked about Carmelo. And I tweeted out a couple good things about Carmelo. I felt more comfortable about it. Maybe somebody can guess why. But Carmelo, good game today. 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 3 from the 3-point line. Kind of cooled off. He started off hot, but he provided the spark I thought we needed. This was the type of game early where Carmelo coming in and making shots was needed because we were not making shots before he came in. He comes in, hits his first 2 shots. I think they were up 6 or so, maybe 7. And then he comes in, cuts the deficit to 2, and then we're in this game for the rest of the half, and we pull away in the second. So I thought he provided a spark offensively that we needed. This was the type of game early on where we were getting quality shots, we just weren't making them, and when you need an offensive spark, if he's able to come in and provide it, it's helpful. Now, there's games where he'll come in and go over, but it's nice to have a guy who is a 40% three-point shooter and can have occasional games where he's going inside the arc as well. That spark was needed in this game, and he provided it.
Yeah, and you like to see the 3 assists as well. And I have to mention this. Carmelo Anthony plus 22, I think, tonight.
Don't ever mention plus. Oh, wait, it was a plus 20. Oh, yeah, you better mention plus minus, Eric.
Yeah. Him. I think he was plus 20 and Canner was plus 22 or something like that. So, or the opposite. But they were both over plus 20.
Wait, I thought it was all Canner's fault. How's Canner a plus 22?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. That's crazy.
And
but
Jason DeDemon, yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Tori, but I feel like I've been pretty impartial to both, praising Melo too much or bashing him too much. But yeah, it's not like we've never said bad things. I hate when people come in here and say like you guys never say anything good about Carmelo, because we've said plenty of good things, especially that he had a month stretch where he was playing really well for us, and we did not bash him at all during that time. Yeah,
played really well for a whole month. I pointed that out, man. I mean, I don't know what people want. I call it how it is. I'm a straight shooter. All right. It might have just gotten demonetized for saying that, but I mean, dude, I just hate when I say nice things about him, how Melo fans make it such a big deal, and when I say bad things about him, Melo fans make it such a big deal. Like, why is it such a big deal what I say about Carmelo Anthony? Like, why do some people care so much? I don't know. Like, it's just crazy to me, because I'll literally say, man, Melo isn't making shots, and I'll have a couple of guys that are just like, you Melo hitter, always bashing Melo, it's Canner's fault, yeah, just like going off on me. And it doesn't make me want to, I don't know, like, I'll still call it like it is, but you're not going to make me want to speak good on Carmelo Anthony if all his fans are just hostile if I ever say anything bad. So that's kind of where I stood on Carmelo Anthony. He's been very solid lately. He had a good month of March. He has stretches where he really struggles to make shots. When he struggles to make shots, he doesn't really help the team. When he makes shots, he helps the team. It's that simple. You know what I mean? It's kind of the Gary Trent Jr. effect that I said, Eric. So that's kind of the situation that we're in. He has been more efficient this year than he was last year. He's actually having this year, his true shooting percentage right now is 54.1%. That's his career average. I mean, he's been, I wouldn't say he's efficient, but he hasn't been inefficient on the season. He'll have stretches of really good basketball where he's playing good. He'll have stretches of bad basketball where he's playing bad. It's just kind of a mixed bag in his play in my eyes. Just depends on if he's making or missing shots. That's just the way it is. So if he's missing shots, I'm not going to like it. If he's making shots, I'm going to like it. And some people just can't handle the negative aspects of that.
And I mean, we saw this for a few stretches tonight, but overall, I like how we're moving the ball and getting good shots even with him in the game. He did have several ISO situations, which are going to happen when he's in the game. That's just a part of having him on the team. But like you said, if he makes them, then it's good. If he misses them, it's bad, those situations. But overall, I would just – because he was the passer on that play where Dame cut back door for a wide open lay-in. I've said this all year. I was even talking about before letting him play point guard jokingly. I think he's a very capable passer, and I like when they use him in that role. I still feel like if Nurk is out of the game and Melo is in the game, we can use Melo in that either pick and pop or that free throw line area to give him the ball to attack the basket. If he knows there's cutters, I think he's more than capable of making those passes as he's shown this year. And I like him shooting that shot if he's wide open more than Nurk, that 15-foot jumper. So I'd like to see them use him in those situations more than Cantor for the pick and roll or the pick and slip type options. It's just... The problem is you've got these guys who just it's not that you can't like Melo. So people are saying that you just block any Melo stands, and that's not the case. So the particular Melo stand that got blocked last post game, it was because we asked him to stop going at Torrey and then to stop making it personal and stuff like that. And then he called him delusional after that, after we gave him several warnings. So that's just why he got blocked. We had let him go say whatever he wanted all season. And I guess he got timed out a couple of times, but other than that, we don't just block people because we like Carmelo Anthony. It's the people who can constantly complain about us not praising him or praising someone else a certain way. And then when we ask them to just stop pointing that out every time, and then you tell us how much we suck and we're delusional or whatever, that's just taking it too far. And so that's why people got blocked, not because we have a problem with every Melo fan. If you like Melo, we're gonna block you too. That's not how we do it.
Yeah, and the problem is a lot of Melo stands make things personal and take things too far. If you're a Melo fan that doesn't, you won't get blocked. It's that simple. And I can respect your fandom of Carmelo Anthony, your diehard fandom of him, if you go about it in a generally respectful way, because I'm not insulting people for being Melo stans or anything. I'm not going after you. I'm not making it personal. Melo can be your favorite player. Cool. I don't care. Either way, cool. If you're spamming stuff on every one of my tweets in all caps and insulting me in my stream chat, then there's a chance you'll get blocked, but it'll be because of that behavior. So well said, Eric. Appreciate you putting that. Probably better than I could have. That's what happened there. So anyway, Carmelo Anthony, good game tonight. 3 assists. Nice to see. Nice to see him hit some shots inside the arc. He got going, provided us with the spark that we needed. So next guy we got Anthony Simons. He continues to play extremely good basketball. He has 10 points, 4 assists, which is nice to see. He had a beautiful feed to Nurk there in the fourth quarter. That just got me hyped to see him make that extra pass. That quick extra pass coming from Ant, who gets criticized for his lack of passing ability all the time. Got me hyped. 4 for 8 from the field, 2 for 5 from the three-point line. His three-point shooting is just consistently great right now. and he's hitting shots off the dribble. He's hitting shots. It's not just a catch and shoot guy. He right now is a 3-point specialist. That's more than just your typical like JJ Redick 3-point specialist, where a lot of it's catch and shoot. Joe Harris. Sure, those guys can hit shots off the dribble, but most of their damage, they're just curling off the screens, and it's catch and shoot, spotting up, or it's catch and shoot. Anthony, a lot of it comes off pick and roll, off the dribble. He hits a mid-range shot tonight, which was good to see. He's 2 for 3 inside the arc. That's the next evolution of his game, is if he's able to slash. I also think his defense has been better as of late than it has been earlier this season. So lately, he has pretty much earned a spot in the rotation. I will admit, 2 weeks ago, if you said Nas or Ant, I would have said Nas. At this point, with how well Anthony Simons is playing, I would say Ant. My mind has changed on that, and he's changed my mind with his play.
Yeah, and for the record, I've pretty much never wavered on Simons, even struggling the first couple of years. But this is the next evolution of his game, in my opinion. So he came out tonight, got 2 wide open threes, missed both of them, right? His first 2 shots. And you're like, oh man, is he gonna like lose his confidence or whatever? But what does he do? He hits 2 out of his next 3 for the rest of the game. He attacks the rim a little bit. He has some nice passes instead. And that pass to Nurkic for the dunk. So it was right after a play where the ball got kicked to Norm in the corner, and instead of shooting, he drove to the basket, got a reverse lay-in that was fairly easy. I mean, he made it look kind of difficult, but he got a layup out of it, and that's because they had to sell out for the 3-point shot, and that's another reason why having those drives works so well in those situations. And then that next play, they kicked to Ant on the opposite side of the court, and he could have easily shot that, but he zips the pass inside and gets a dunk out of it. And this is what happens when you have shooting and you use that shooting not to just get as many threes as possible, but to get the best shot possible. And you have a guy, Anthony Simons, who is just hitting threes at an unreal rate right now. Use that to your advantage to extend the defense out and to gravitate towards him and to set that up for others to get open shots. And if Anthony's passing in those situations or starts to become more of a passer, like we've talked about with CJ for years now, which he's doing a better job of this season as well, that's going to really open up his game and take it to the next level.
Yep, I agree with that. Defensively, he's been encouraging. I still think, honestly, like, he has the potential to be a decent defender, I think. He has the foot speed. He has the quickness. It's just learning on that end and probably getting a little bit stronger. He's still young. He's not a good defender right now. But lately, I'd say he's been solid since he's kind of gotten put back into the rotation. I think people, when it comes to Anthony and CJ and Dame, right? Like, people need to not be so locked into them being bad defenders, because I feel like people aren't giving CJ credit for being like okay defensively. Now, defensively, it's not good, but right. CJ has been very bad going up until the season. This year, I think he's been okay. I think he's been average-ish, maybe slightly below average, but that's like a big step up from where he was. You know what I mean? But people have it so set in their minds that he's like a terrible, terrible defender that when he starts playing better defense and playing okay-ish defense, they don't give him credit and they still think he's a bad defender. I feel like that's kind of the way that it's going with Anthony Simons. Now, maybe not because he's younger and hasn't been here so long and people expect him to grow on that end, whereas CJ, they're kind of locked into him being a bad defender. My whole entire point is base these guys off of the defense they're playing, not off any preconceptions you have about them as defenders.
And that's why I so badly want a new coach, because I feel like the schemes and the way we play makes almost all these players, like even a Rocco, who's been a first-team all-defensive player in this league, and a Derek Jones, who had analytically one of the better seasons for a perimeter defender last year. it makes those guys look like they're horrible defenders too. And this was not the case. They just didn't forget how to play defense from last year to this year, and they're not having zero impact like Coach Stott said about Derek Jones. But it just the conservative defense, it lets people get such good shots against you that it's so hard to overcome that. Even if you're playing fantastic defense, your team is just so I don't know. It's just like it's such a passive mindset that it's hard to then like have the aggressive attitude you need to be a good defender when you're always sagging off the ball or auto switching on picks and all that kind of stuff. So I just feel like if you had both a better scheme around them and someone who prioritized these things more so than just excusing them and letting these guys do whatever they want on offense and use a lot of energy there to where they're not saving some of that energy for defense. Like I just feel like they could be put in a better position to not even look bad at all, and they would look somewhat close to average if they had a guy who emphasized a lot of or girl who emphasized a lot of these things for the roster and in practice. Even though they say that they're focused on it all the time or whatever, it just doesn't feel like it's prioritized the same way that like you look at the Knicks and it's obvious that they both prioritize it and emphasize it, and it like manifests onto the court like their attitude towards that end. Whereas on our team, it just seems like they're all just trying not to mess up on defense, and I don't think that's a good way to play defense.
Yep, I agree. As far as the thumbnail quality being terrible, I don't know why that happened, but it should be fixed now. Somebody finally pointed that out. So, yeah, that thumbnail quality was definitely terrible. I don't know. No, that was very strange. We also got...
It was fine, and then that's what I said. It got like digitized or something. Like I don't know.
Oh! I thought you were talking about the stream, not the thumbnail.
Well, it had happened on the stream because he went live, and then it went to back to the thumbnail, and something must have got messed up.
Yeah. So hopefully it's fixed. I think I fixed it. It looks fine on my phone now. We also got 2 donations. I'll thank Alex is first. He had a 99-cent donation with a peach emoji. So appreciate it, Alex. We just had one from Afro Thunder. We'll get to Afro Thunder's comment after we have this discussion because a lot of people want us to discuss what Near 012 is talking about. Near 012, young reliable Near 012, another $5 dono. He says, have some people, including me, want to hear your thoughts on Derek Jones Jr. not playing, especially with the ball movement and faster pace we're playing with now. And better ball movement and a faster pace fits Derek Jones Jr. I think he'd be better with the offense the way it is, but he is now out of the rotation. And I don't know, with how good Anthony's playing, I don't know, it's hard to like have a huge issue with it. I don't think he deserved to be out of the rotation. Nas is getting like rare spot minutes right now, but I said one of Anthony, Derek Jones Jr. and Little is going to end up out of the rotation once all three got healthy because they were kind of banged up, and then when they were all healthy, like Dame was out for a little bit. So I said one of those was going to have to lose out, and I thought the one person that would lose out is Anthony. Well, 2 people lost out, and neither of them is Anthony. It's Nas and Derek Jones Jr., so it literally played out the opposite of how I thought it'd go. I don't know.
Well, Hollis Jefferson isn't playing either.
Yeah, I would play Derek Jones Jr. over Hollis Jefferson. Hollis Jefferson seems to be over Derek Jones Jr. right now in the rotation, which I just don't agree with. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation. With Anthony playing like this, it's hard to really complain, but I don't know. It's kind of sad to see.
That play with the Roca cut, if that's
Exactly.
Derek Jones Jr., that's exciting, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, again, unstoppable if you're just throwing lobs to him, and he's probably getting either an and one or a great dunk instead of just going to the line like Rocco did. Not that either is bad, but I just feel like if he was started in the corner on those and we knew he was going to cut almost every time, that would I mean, it just opens up the offense so much to attack the rim, and we would get our shot quality would just go through the roof if we were playing 4-on-3 with him cutting to the basket and Norm and CJ as the other two shooters as Dame gets double teamed.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of my thoughts. I don't have a huge issue with it with how Anthony's playing. It's kind of been cut to an 8-man rotation at this point. In the playoffs, that's likely what it was going to be anyway, and Anthony's kind of that 8th guy. With the way Anthony's playing, I can't really complain about it. If Anthony starts struggling, I think Derrick Jones Jr. deserves another look.
It might depend on our matchups too, because if we play either of the LA teams, I think you got to play both Derrick Jones and probably Hollis Jefferson a little bit just to take some turns guarding those guys and not wearing everyone of those 8 guys out, having to guard them for 30 minutes a game. So I think you have to kind of limit some of those role players' minutes, but keep them fresh on defense. But yeah, outside of that, I don't see a lot of scenarios. You're right. Once we get down to the nitty gritty here, it's going to be the rotation is going to be pretty set like this. There might be some matchups where Cantor is the one that sits. So it'll be interesting to see in those situations if it's against a good team, whether that's Hollis Jefferson, Nas, or DJ that gets those minutes. But yeah, right now, it sucks. I mean, I want everyone to get playing time and that, but I can't find fault in not playing someone tonight when we're playing well like this. I feel like that's pretty good decision despite wanting to see Derrick Jones in some of those spots.
Yep. And that's what I like what Olshey's done is he's brought in a lot of depth and a lot of different types of players that Stotts can plug and play depending on situations.
And honestly, that depth is why we didn't have a huge fall off when we had Nurk and CJ hurt. Obviously, we're not as good of a team when they're both down, or why we're missing Collins all year and it's not hurting us too bad. Is we have a deep team this year. This is by far the deepest team. We have lots of options, and that allowed us to tread water or to be a little bit above that during that time we were missing those guys. So now that everyone's healthy outside of Zach, it's hard to find minutes for all those guys.
Yep, and let's thank Afro Thunder 9101 for the $20 dono.
Before you get to that, we did miss a dono earlier.
Which one did we miss?
Max Gaines had a $5 dono.
Oh, did he? Sorry, Max, if you're still in here. It's not showing up for me.
He said, if we keep playing this way the last 3 games, could we make the Western Conference Finals?
I don't think we're beating either of the LA teams, and we'd likely have to beat one of them to make the Western Conference Finals. I still think if we play the Suns should be favored. I am not going to put too much stock into 3 games. Maybe ask me again when we're going into the playoffs, and depending on our matchup, I mean, yeah, it's just, I don't know. They still got to be more versatile schematically, defensively, and it's going to take them playing at the highest potential. You know what I mean? It's I still don't have a ton of confidence in this team making a deep playoff run, due in part to who's the coach. And we've had good stretches in the past just to come up short in the playoffs. I mean, you look at the Pelican series. We get swept by the Pelicans, and we had a 13-game winning streak late in that season. I mean, so I'm not going to put too much stock in 3 games.
Here's my deal. So the problem is we put ourselves in a really tough position to make a deep run, unlike that year and the year after when we did make a run. Those years we got the 3 seed, right? And so we had home court first round, and we the first round opponent, I mean, it wasn't easy, I wouldn't say, but this year, instead of going to one of the LA teams or Phoenix, we would be talking about playing possibly Dallas or whatever team makes the 7th and 8th seed. And so that first round becomes a little easier, and then you only have to beat one of the top 4 or 5 teams the next round, and then you're in the Western Conference Finals. Whereas this year, we're going to have to beat one of those top 4 teams and then beat another one the next round to get there. So I feel like the way the season's gone and not getting one of those top 4 seeds when I feel like we have the talent to do so, and we have the talent to make the Western Conference Finals, in my mind, if we do play the right way, that's going to hold us back from achieving that this year. Hopefully next year, with a new person in charge, we will have that kind of mindset from the beginning of the season and not put ourselves in a position where we're struggling to maybe be in the play-in game or make the 6th seed or whatever.
Yep, agreed. Now we'll get to Afro Thunders. Okay. $20 dono. He says, would Zach Collins return to the rotation as a health? Yeah, let me. Would Zach Collins return to the rotation as a healthy contributor? Would that position the Trailblazers for a title run this season? P.S. You guys are champs. Thanks, David. Appreciate it, David.
Thanks, David.
I don't know. I don't know if Zach Collins would get back into the rotation. I mean, Derrick Jones Jr. was a starter and then he falls out. I mean, Zach Collins hasn't played all season. I feel like if we're not going to play Cantor, we're going to go small. You know, maybe he would play, but like, I don't even know if he'd play, so I don't think Zach Collins returning would increase our chances whatsoever, even if he did play, make us a little better defensively, but he's going to be rusty. He's likely going to be out of shape. It likely wouldn't happen until the second round, most likely. I don't think he'd come back in the first round, so I don't think Zach Collins will have a say in this season whatsoever.
And everyone always says, well, he's just too foul prone or whatever, which I think is a little overblown. If you look at his fouls per 36 and stuff, he isn't even on pace to foul out of any of those games, and he's only fouled out less than a handful of times in his career, I think. So I think that's a little overblown, but when you sit out for 2 years, that's something that's really hard to overcome, though, if you have a tendency to reach or you're a step slow still in some situations, or knowing when to go for a block shot and when to go vertical and stuff like that, which Zach at times has shown really good instincts with. But when you sit out for 2 seasons, it's really hard to just get thrown into a playoff series and expect those to be locked in enough to help this team better than some of the guys who have been there playing all year. Maybe a few cases where you plug him in the second unit instead of Cantor, and we all of a sudden have a little different look defensively, some more things we can do there might help a little bit. But overall, I'd just be happy to get to a point where we're talking about that at this point versus I don't think he's going to be that much of a benefit this year. With that being said, much like I talked about with Simons earlier, I still believe in Zach even more so than any young player on this team. I still think if he's healthy, he would help us more than any player on this team. And he's like the ultimate like glue role player that a winning team needs. And he's never going to put up huge stats. He's never going to average like 15 points a game or anything like that. But he's just a guy who does winning things on the court. And we need those kind of guys, especially these last 2 seasons. And it's kind of sucked not having him. But I do hope he's back next year. And I think he will be, hopefully. And I do still think if he can find a way to get over these injuries, because he was healthy this first 2 years, so it's not like it's completely out of the realm of possibility. I still think there's a good player in there.
Yeah, Sam says they'll overpay him like they did Myers. I don't think so whatsoever. I think Zach Collins is going to be back next year on a qualifying offer.
Which is about $7 or $8 million, I think.
Yeah, it makes too much sense. I mean, we're going to be over the cap anyway. If you can bring him back $7 million a year for a year, why not do it? If he's hurt, okay, cool. That $7 million a year we could use in trades to match salary. It doesn't stop us from signing anybody. We're in the tax anyways. So that $7 million doesn't hurt us even if he never even plays. Now, if he does play, he could easily be worth that $7 million contract. He's the type of big that I think we need off the bench. So I would bring him back next year on his qualifying offer, or if he wants to, a 2-year. I mean, that probably wouldn't happen, but like $6 million a year for 2 years with maybe a player option or something like that, I would do that too. It's a cheap contract for a guy that still has upside if he's able to be healthy. If he's hurt and if he doesn't amount to anything, if he doesn't play, doesn't really hurt us. So I want him back. I expect him back. And I don't think it's going to be a situation where Olshey goes out and gives him 4 years, $40 million total, $10 million a year. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it will be a cheap contract next season, whether it's his qualifying offer or maybe a short-term deal that he signs.
Yep, completely agree. Yeah, maybe 1 year with either a team option or a player option. But yeah, I think both Zach will bet on himself and the team will allow that because we'd still retain his bird rights. And if he has a good season or is healthy next year, then we can sign him to whatever value his contract would be from that point forward. And if he's hurt again or it's just not working out, then we cut bait and we only had to pay him the $7 million for 1 year. And I don't think there's any downside to that at all.
Yep. Shout out Colin Jashke for the $5 dono. Says, you guys already talked about the Chris Haynes article from today. Touched on it. And we haven't really touched on it. I was thinking about maybe doing a video talking about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Let me just say this. Olivia said, thanks, Olivia, for this. She said that it was mentioned in the Dame interview.
Yeah.
And he agreed with how frustrating the season was and what was said about his injuries. But he was frustrated that Chris made the article look like he had a say in it when the article was just Chris's opinion. So everyone was saying that this is just Chris being a mouthpiece for Dame, and Dame shut that down, saying that he had nothing to do with the article.
Here's the thing, though. If it was a mouthpiece for Dame, I would expect Dame to shut it down. I would expect Dame to deny it, so I don't know. I mean, there's not... With Dame saying that, I probably won't do a video on it. You can read into that as much as you want. Honestly, maybe it's just purely Chris Haynes' opinion. Maybe it's because he's talked to Dame and Dame is saying it's just Chris's opinion, but Dame behind the scenes is frustrated because Chris Haynes just aired out Dame's opinions, and you know what I mean? I don't know. You can read into that however you want. Honestly, there's logic to read into it as that's Dame's opinions. There's logic to read into it like that had nothing to do with Dame's opinions, and that's just Chris Haynes' opinions. So that's kind of where how I feel about that, given what Dame said.
I mean, I think both could be true, because I think a lot of it does read like Dame's, feeding him some stuff to say, but a lot of it also reads like Haynes is just giving his opinion from an outside perspective as well. So, and that goes to both coaching and personnel stuff, which obviously I agree more with the coaching stuff he said in the article than the personnel stuff. But at the same time, so this is not to blame Dame. So I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. But like, Dame is on like a really high contract. Dame is on, or Dame has been, I don't know if it's vocal is the right word, but like it's pretty obvious he wants CJ on the team still. So some of that is you can't have it both ways. Like you can't be making 40% of the salary cap and then expect the team around you to be so easily built into this team where you have all these good players and all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, if you truly want or okay with the team moving on from your buddy CJ, then I mean, he's always said that that's not a decision he wants to make, and he would be mad in those decisions. So I don't feel like he can really complain that much about the talent around him, because I feel like this all comes down to coaching to me. Like if we had better coaching, some of these guys would be closer to all-star level talent than they are right now. And a guy like CJ, if we were, a top 2 or 3 seed this year, might have got an all-star game nod if he wasn't hurt, or in years past when we haven't been a high seed when the all-star voting has happened. if CJ is doing the exact same things, but on a winning team or a team that's contending for the top seed or something, then he would easily be an all-star in my opinion. So I hate the all-star thing. I hate that people keep bringing it up. But like at the same time, like I think Dame needs to recognize that like there's a reason why some of these players are seemingly untouchable in trades too. I don't know. Likely. Muted. You're muted.
Oh, I muted myself. I don't know why I muted myself. I wasn't even typing. Okay, so Jimmy Cleveland drops a $10 dono saying, just got off work and great needed win. Seeing Google saying that Stotts is going to be gone next season. This was also a report or article that was leaked today that Stotts is likely gone next season. Not that he's going to be gone, like Jimmy said, but appreciate the donation nonetheless, Jimmy. Means a lot, man. Stotts is likely gone this offseason. We've said that for a while now. Seems like some people are starting to catch up from the national media scene. I don't even know who the article was from, but it was basically saying what we've been saying. That,
it was Bleacher Report.
Yeah, Bleacher Report is saying what we've been saying. Maybe we're their sources. I don't know. But it's what we've been saying for a while, that Stotts is likely going to be fired this offseason.
Yeah, and it's funny because I kind of got this a bit from the Chris Haynes article, and we definitely have seen this with a lot of pro Stotts media and people on Twitter. I don't like that they're now saying like, oh, I know Stotts is going to be fired. I'm team fire Stotts now. Like, so my opinion is more unbiased than anyone else's because now I've switched my point of view or whatever. And then at the same time, they're trying to get Olshey down with the ship as well, so they aren't completely. They're just trying to save face when Stotts does get fired, and he will be fired after this season. Once again, short of a miracle run, I think we have to at least get to the Western Conference Finals or lose in a dramatic fashion in the second round, and maybe he comes back next year, but. Short of that happening, I think this guy is gone. I think all these people who have defended him for years. I mean, how many times did we say or hear people say Stotts would never get fired as long as Dame is on this team? So until Dame retires, there is zero chance Stotts would ever be let go. We heard that as few as like a month ago, right, Tori? From these people. And now they're all like, "Oh, what are you talking about? I've been saying Stotts should be fired now, and all this stuff." And so that's not staying consistent with your argument. And they realized that they were wrong. A lot of these people have been wrong about Stotts, and they're starting to figure that out for themselves. It took a long time, but they're realizing that, and those people are. Going to do everything possible to deflect people from coming at them when this team plays better under a new coach next year. And they're going to set it up to be like, well, I wanted Stotts gone too. Like, and look at my tweets from 2 months before the season ended or whatever. I turned on Stotts as well and all that. So just don't buy it. And I mean, people can change. That's fine. Their opinions can change. But some of those guys will never get my respect because of the way they treated Tori and I the last 2 years. So I'm not going to give them credit or the benefit of the doubt or recognition for having an unbiased opinion because they said that it was likely Stotts would get fired, even though the same people are now trying to blame the personnel for him getting fired. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's a silly conversation. And I am ready for the conversation to cease with a firing of Terry Stotts. So anyway, appreciate the donations. Let's we still got a couple players to get through. CJ tonight struggles. In 33 minutes, he has 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 for 12 from the field, 1 for 3 from the 3-point line. He struggles to shoot the ball, but he didn't force too much. A lot of games where he's shooting 33%, he's shooting like 21, 22 shots and is like 7 for 22. You know what I mean? He only shoots 12 shots in this one, didn't have a shot going. Honestly, kind of took a back seat and didn't really dominate the ball much in this one, which is a big critique many people have for CJ when his shot isn't falling. So, he didn't have a good game, didn't really make shots, but he didn't force the action like normal, which is better than some other nights when he's not shooting the ball well.
Yeah, so, I mean, you don't like to see 10 points on 12 shots. And this is the difference, in my opinion, between him and Norm right now, because CJ, when he's not making shots, isn't getting to the line a bunch. He doesn't attack the rim a whole lot. So if he's struggling to shoot, it shows in his efficiency. But like you said, I do like that he only took 12 shots and he recognizes that he's struggling. And I thought it was interesting and a good move by Stotts. Once again, another nice thing he did tonight. He took CJ out in the fourth quarter in a normal spot where Simons would have gone out. And Dame and Simon stayed in as the guards, and CJ didn't play as much. I don't know. How many minutes did CJ end up with
33.
tonight? 33, yeah. So not quite as much as he normally would get in a game like this. So it's nice to see... Simons is playing better this game. Like, maybe give him a shot to prove something versus forcing CJ to come in and take shots or whatever. But at the same time, CJ is absolutely a guy who can have a game like this, but in the fourth quarter get hot and save us with scoring 3 isolation plays in a row. But at some point, this is why I want a new coach too, and why I don't necessarily blame CJ. But at some point, they got to figure out that when they play like this, it helps if everyone's playing that way, and you can't have people still going ISO and doing things at certain times of the game, and recognizing which times those are and which times you need to do that and get a bucket. And I felt like CJ didn't force anything in the second half. He forced a little bit in the first half, but second half I felt like he was letting the players who were doing that dictate the game, and I'm fine with that as long as he's recognizing that and not trying to disrupt that. Like the second unit, I felt like Simons and Melo were taking most of the shots when Dame was out versus CJ he wasn't even really involved in a lot of the plays and stuff. And so I kind of like that mindset where you don't have to rely on these guys game in and game out.
Yep, I agree with that. 2 more players to get through, and then I want to go around the NBA because there's some interesting stuff happening in the NBA tonight. Robert Covington, 7 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. Only shoots 3 shots, is 1 for 2 from 3, 1 for 1 inside the arc. He ended up playing 31 minutes and only shoots 3 shots, man. I mean, we just don't get this guy shots. But he's a floor spacer. He's a good enough 3-point shooter that guys just don't leave him, and he can make guys pay for leaving him. So, I mean... just as long as he continues to provide the defense. I thought tonight he actually struggled a little bit defensively compared to his standards. 4 fouls, bit on a couple pump fakes, fell asleep, got beaten backdoor, and then there was a timeout immediately called after that. So wasn't his normal good defensive game, but I mean he's still rebounded well, 9 rebounds, had a couple nice assists. Was efficient despite him shooting only 3 shots. He makes 2 of them. So honestly, not really any complaints. He wasn't one of his better defensive games, but that's not something to worry about.
Still got a lot of deflections though, and I don't like, because this is what's happening. I mean, Norm guarded Kyrie a lot tonight, but there were several possessions where Covington's trying to guard him, and he's just not good guarding a quick point guard like Kyrie. So that's part of the problem when you try to hide 2 people in your starting lineup, and why I don't like necessarily hiding those guys. You saw Kyrie guarding Dame a lot in this game. I just think at some point you have to let your guards guard the other team's guards. You can't always have Covington and Powell having that tough of a matchup the entire game. But yeah, overall, I thought Covington, yeah, he might. I don't know if passive's the right word, but he's just not involved much in the offense at all, and that's why I loved his cut to get to the free throw line. But yeah, I feel like if you're struggling shooting, get to the line and get those cuts and get some easy baskets. And I thought he did a good job of that tonight.
Yeah, he's been cutting better lately, which is nice to see. Like him as a spot-up shooter, but he had a couple nice cuts. Wasn't he the one who cut and then fed the ball back to Nurkic, and then Nurkic missed that dunk?
Yep.
Yeah, so should have had 3 assists, let's just be honest. But, that play and then the play where he cuts baseline that I diagrammed on the clipboard to start this stream, just good examples of he doesn't, he made both of his, I think he made both of his free throws. I can check that. Made both of his free throws and didn't get an assist for that play to Nurk. But that's an example of making the right cut and it doing good things for us.
Khalid has a good point. He's biting too much on pump fakes. He's getting a lot of silly fouls where it's questionable whether they're fouls sometimes, but he's got to stop. I mean, it's good to get your hands in the passing lanes and stuff, but the silly fouls or the jumping up pump fakes and stuff, that does need to be cleaned up a little bit with him.
Yep. The last guy we're going to talk about, Enes Kanter, 4 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 2 for 3 from the field. Honestly, nothing. A lot of times we get to Kanter, it's just nothing to say about him. He played 19 minutes tonight, only 1 offensive rebound, so he didn't really have much of an impact, but he was a plus 20, so there's that.
Yeah, I felt like, I don't know, the times he played were mostly without Kyrie in the game, so there weren't a lot of situations where they took advantage of those, of having him in there on defense. But yeah, I mean, the guy's shooting great this year from the field. He's a killer on the glass. He gets put in some of the worst positions of any NBA player on defense imaginable, and I don't think that does him any favors. I'm not saying he's good defensively at all, but I feel like we just let teams go right at him sometimes and make him the scapegoat. But tonight I felt like he did a quality job, and defensive rebounding tonight was good. He prevented a lot of second chance opportunities. So yeah, just solid minutes for him tonight.
Yep. So let's go around the NBA. Let me set this to automatic. There we go. All right. Around the NBA, there's currently one game going on right now. That is Lakers-Kings. And LeBron's return to the court, which is happening right now. He's played 21 minutes. He has 9 points, 5 assists, 3 for 6 from the field, 0 for 2 from the three-point line. Anthony Davis is back too, so the Lakers finally have their big 2 back. Anthony Davis has 13 points, 8 rebounds. Andre Drummond leads the Lakers with 16 points. The Lakers are currently beating the Kings 75-71 with 4.5 minutes left in the third. The Lakers lose. I think we'll only be 1 game back of them. Eric, do you know?
Yeah. Well, you can bring up the standings in a minute, but I will do so really quick. I believe you're right.
Yeah, they're currently 10 games above 500 right now. After this game, we're 7 games above 500. Yep. So, yeah, they should be a game back if they lose this game. So, we'll see if the Kings can pull it out. The Blazers will only be 1 game back of the 5th seed. That would be, I mean, probably the best position for the Blazers to be in would be the 5th seed. Likely first-round matchup against the Denver Nuggets without Jamal Murray, if the Nuggets stay 4th. And then second round, you win that, and you get most likely the Utah Jazz, if not the Memphis Grizzlies if they upset them, but most likely the Jazz. I mean, that would be the best position and path to have for the Blazers. What's crazy right now, I mean, we'll get into the standings after that, because I didn't realize the standings were so close, 1 through 4 right now. In the Western Conference. But other scores, games that have gone final, you have the 76ers beating the Hawks 126 to 104. The Sixers moved to 42 and 21. The Hawks at 34 and 30. They were on a hot pace that's kind of tapered off a bit without Trae Young. The 76ers had a team-wide effort. Dwight Howard led them in scoring, Eric, 19 points. They had 7 guys in double figures. The Hawks had 30. Oh, Trae Young is back. I didn't realize Trae Young was already back. I thought he wasn't supposed to be back already. He had 32 points. So I guess Trae Young is back. I don't know if this is his first game back or whatnot, but I thought he was supposed to be out a lot longer. Other scores. The Celtics come back from 32 points, Eric. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw Spurs were up by 30, and then Tatum went crazy.
Mm-hmm. The Spurs, I don't know what's more surprising, the comeback or the fact that the Spurs were up 32 against the Celtics. The Spurs were winning 77 to 48 at halftime. The Spurs have a 42-point third quarter, outscore the Celtics have a 42-point third quarter, outscore the Spurs 42 to 26. Then in the fourth quarter, they outscore them 38 to 25 to send it in OT.
At 80 in the second half.
Yes, 80. So the Spurs have 77 in the first half. Celtics have 80 in the second half. Jason Tatum has 60 points to lead Boston to the 143 to 140 overtime win. Jason Tatum, 20 for 37 from the field, 5 for 7 from the three-point line, 15 for 17 from the free throw line. Also had 8 rebounds, 5 assists. So he has a huge game. Your guy Aaron Nesmith has 16 off the bench. So he had a good game. I know that was one of your favorite draft targets. He hasn't really gotten much of an opportunity in Boston so far this year. So big win, big comeback win for them. Maybe the biggest. I can't think of a bigger comeback than 32 points.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. It's the NBA, so I guess it happens a few times recently versus it used to never happen. But the Celtics are playing a lot better over the last month or so and have put themselves back in the running for home court advantage in the East.
Yeah, I mean, they've just struggled to be healthy all season long. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in this game, they're without Kemba Walker. They finally got Robert Williams back, who has been a good starting center for them this year. So if they're healthy, that's a team nobody wants to see in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Other games, you got the Washington Wizards are on a tear, Eric. 122 to 93 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Washington Wizards are now 29 and 34. They might, I don't know, they've been playing good basketball. Depending on their schedule, they might be able to reach 500 at 36 and 36. I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibilities. They get another triple-double from Mr. Westbrook, 15 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. Bradley Beal only had 19 in this one. He struggled 8 for 24, but they still win by 29 points due to the Wizards. Just a team-wide effort because nobody really stood out for them. But I mean, their defense, and this is what I want to talk about with this game. I mean, their defense has improved from near the bottom of the league to average without a personnel change, Eric. And they hold the Cavs to 93 points. That's why they've been much better lately, is they've actually been playing some defense.
Yeah. What is that guy's name that does like the last 15 days? Kirk something?
No idea.
Kurt Goldsberry?
Yeah, I was thinking Goldsberry, but it sounded completely made up to me. So I assume it is.
The Blazers are still they're 5-10 over their last 15, but they're slightly above the line for positive teams, still below the line for defensive efficiency. But the Wizards are up in the quadrant of WoW over the last 15 games, which is both positive on offense and defense.
Yeah, so they've been playing better. That would be an interesting team to see in the first round of the playoffs because they got some talent there. You got Beal, you got Westbrook, so will be interesting to see how their season finishes up. They're a long ways off for Bradley Beal crying on the bench like he was earlier this season. So, happy for Bradley Beal. That's one of the guys that I respect because he's stuck it out there in Washington. And we'll see what they can do. Other games, you got Memphis 92-75 win over the Magic. The Magic are just a team that are playing a bunch of nobodies at this point. The Grizzlies were led by Dillon Brooks, 20 points, but he didn't do it efficiently, Reese. 7 for 18 from the field. But Ja Morant struggles. It doesn't matter. The Magic suck. The Memphis Grizzlies are now 32-30 on the season. The Bucks beat the Bulls 108-98. Antetokounmpo missed this game, but they were still able to get the win behind 22 points from Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez. They had 16 from Bobby Portis and Drew Holiday. The Bulls had 21 from Kobe White, but it wasn't efficient. Reese and all the people that try and tell me that Kobe White is really good. 6 for 15 from the field for Kobe White. His boy Vucevic also struggled. Reese, 7 for 27 from the field. All the Reese's guys just struggled today, man. Struggled to be efficient. Vucevic, that trade is backfired, Eric.
Majorly. I mean, I guess they have him moving forward, which isn't bad for them, but...
And they haven't had Levine, but still. They're 26-37. That pick that they traded is what, top 4 protected?
I believe so, 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that could be the 7th, 8th pick in the draft that the Magic got, which they could use on a really good player because this draft is loaded. So that trade backfired for the Bulls. That trade is looking pretty good right now if you're a Magic fan and you're looking at potentially the 7th or 8th overall pick. Now, if that pick goes in the top 4 and the Bulls keep it, then that trade looks a lot better. Maybe next year they're able to make the playoffs and that pick is, ends up conveying at 15-20. It just depends on how this season finishes out and where that pick actually lands with the protections that are placed on it.
Yep.
Al-Farouq Aminu is on the Bulls?
Yeah, he was part of that trade.
Honestly, everybody that the Magic traded, I don't know. I need to brushing up on player locations right now because I didn't realize Aminu was a Bull. He had 5 points in 15 minutes.
He was part of that trade.
Yeah.
The Vucevic trade, obviously.
Javonte Green is there. Wow, man! Like the Bulls and the Magic and some of the bottom feeders, the Rockets too. They have players that I just don't realize is on their team. And normally, I'm like completely on top of that. So anyway.
Well, you didn't even know. You forgot Avery Bradley was on the Rockets.
I didn't realize Avery Bradley was on the Rockets. But one final game that we got to talk about, Eric, and it was requested. I don't think Valley Podcast is still here because they're doing the postgame show after this game right now, but they asked us if we saw what the Suns were doing to the Jazz. The Suns beat the Jazz 121-100, a blowout win for the Suns, who now moved to 45-18. Eric, they have tied the Utah Jazz in terms of overall record, and they have the tiebreaker right now. Right now, the Phoenix Suns are the number 1 seed in the West.
That's crazy to think about. They had an East Coast swing, and they won some games on that. Maybe lost one they shouldn't have, but that team they're tough. It's going to be interesting to see them in the playoffs if they can play this way in the playoffs and have some success, or if the inexperience outside of Paul and Crowder will come back to bite them. But they're certainly a really fun story for this year.
Yep, extremely well-coached team. Monty Williams is the coach of the year this year. If it's not him, I will be shocked, and I will be a little mad because he definitely deserves coach of the year for what he's done with this group, man. I mean, you would say maybe Quinn Snyder.
Quinn Snyder also, and also Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks should be up there as well. Those are probably your top 3.
Tibbs is in the tier below that. Tibbs is in the tier. Tibbs has done a great job, but they're 7 games above 500. You're looking at the Jazz and the Suns right now are both 27 games above 500. I mean, that's phenomenal. So yeah, you got a tie for first place. The Suns might end up getting this 1 seed from the Jazz. The Suns were led by Devin Booker's 31 points. They had 18 from Bridges, 12 from Chris Paul, 11 from DeAndre Ayton, 11 off the bench from Campaign. The Jazz are still missing Donovan Mitchell, so take this game with a grain of salt. They didn't have Mitchell in this one. They were also missing Jordan. Jordan Clarkson is now back. But Donovan Mitchell obviously is Donovan Mitchell. So would have been nice to see him healthy just to see what these two teams look like against each other at full strength. But the Suns still, though, got to give them credit. They win this game by 21.
Yeah, just a great win for the Suns, and I know those guys are probably hyped.
Yeah, probably. When I would be too if my team was sitting at 45-18 18. My goodness. As far as standings go, Blazers are currently 2.5 games above the Grizzlies for 8th place. So they've created a little separation there. They're only half a game behind Dallas right now for 6th. So there's still a chance they get there. The Lakers are now currently up 10. If the Lakers win this game, the Blazers will be 2 games behind them. Obviously, they got LeBron and AD back, so it's going to be hard to catch them. We do have a matchup against them, though. If we win the matchup against the Lakers, we have an outside chance at getting that 5th seed. If not, we have basically no chance at this point because that game also decides the tiebreaker. So right now I think it's looking like 6th or 7th for the Blazers, most likely 7th, given the Mavericks have an easy schedule the rest of the way. But they've, I don't know, they've been very inconsistent, so I wouldn't be surprised if they drop a couple games against bad teams. But right now, if I had to bet my money on it, Portland would be the 7th seed.
Near 0-12, we're currently the 7th seed. Dallas is a half a game ahead of us.
Yes, Dallas is a half a game ahead of us. But I'm looking at the top 4, Eric. Mm-hmm. Phoenix and Utah are tied, as we said. The Clippers are only 2.5 games back of them. The Nuggets, despite their injuries, Eric, are 3 games back of first place right now.
And despite trading for Aaron Gordon.
I mean, Aaron Gordon has not played well for them, and they've benched him for stretches. So it's not an Aaron Gordon thing there for all the people that love him. They've won 8 out of their last 10, the Nuggets. So, I mean, at this point, the 1 seed's up for grabs. We don't know how that seeding's going to play out. The Blazers, I mean, the Nuggets could get the 2 seed, and that could be the Blazers matchup round 1. The Suns, the Jazz, the Clippers, any of those teams could end up being the 2 seed if the Blazers are indeed 7th and able to win that first playing game. I mean, everything's up in the air right now as we go into the final 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not a slight against Denver, in my opinion, but I mean, without Murray, that is easily the team we match up best with. Mm-hmm. They don't have, they have scorers and they have playmaker and Jokic, but it's not the same as trying to guard Murray with our defensive issues. So I think for our particular schemes and stuff, even if we're playing this better brand of basketball, I think they're by far our best matchup. I don't even know if we beat them necessarily, but I think that's our best chance to win a series if we get them.
Yep, I agree with that. So that wraps up our stream for today after the Blazers take care of the Brooklyn Nets. Our next game, I don't even know what our upcoming schedule is. Let me pull it up here. Our next game is Sunday, 4:30. I'm tired of these early tip times. We got a few more. They play the Celtics on Sunday. Then on Monday, they play the Hawks at 5 p.m. So that game will start right after we're done with Blazers Uprise Live. If you haven't subscribed to Blazers Uprise Live, that's our second channel streaming Mondays and Thursdays. Link in the description box below. Then they conclude this East Coast road trip on Wednesday against the Cavaliers. And then we finally get back to normal tip-off times. Make sure to follow me and Eric on Twitter at ToryJonesYT for me, at Hoopshock for Eric, at Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. We tweet out stream links and everything when we go live, so that's a way so that you can't miss it. We won't spam your... we don't tweet out much else from there, so if you turn on notifications for that Twitter page, you won't get spammed with noties from that. I know YouTube's notification system sometimes doesn't send out notifications, so that's a way you can guarantee to get notifications sent out when we go live.
And we don't attack people or talk crap from that.
Yeah, we're not Pinwheel Empire. So anyway, thank you to everybody who donated tonight. Thank you to my mods, Zach, Reese, and Trevin. Thank you to my channel members. Their names were in green. And thank you to everybody that tuned in for this stream. The Blazers play another good game, win their 3rd straight by double digits. We'll see if they can turn this into some more success coming up against the Celtics, Hawks, and Cavs as they conclude their East Coast road trip. Anything you want to say before we sign off, Eric?
Niners didn't take Mac Jones. Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I know people were asking about that at the end of our Blazers Uprise live stream. Thank goodness Mac Jones is not a San Francisco 49er. Me and Eric are Niner fans. Watch our viewer count get cut in half because there's a lot of Seahawks fans in here. But yeah, me and Eric are Niners fans. Very happy that we don't have Mac Jones. Trey Lance, excited to see what he can become. So anyway.
Hi Mom. Hi Flynn. Hi Cora.
Hi, Eric's family. Bye, Eric's family. Bye to all of you watching as well. We will catch you again with the post-game stream on Sunday. Until then, I hope you have a good weekend. And as always, peace out. Go Blazers.